There was once a man named Daniel. He worked as a janitor in a large corporate building downtown. Every day, before the sun rose, Daniel would quietly step into the marble-floored hallways, pushing his old mop bucket, sweeping dust, cleaning glass doors, and ensuring the offices sparkled before the wealthy executives arrived. Most people never noticed him. To them, he was just the janitor, a shadow in the background. But what they didn't know was that Daniel carried a quiet dignity. He was not ashamed of his work, because he believed that no job was small when done with honesty. Despite his humility, Daniel's life wasn't easy. He lived alone in a tiny apartment on the edge of the city. His wife had passed away years ago, leaving him to raise his daughter, Emily, who was now in college. Every extra dollar Daniel saved went into Emily's education. He wore the same pair of work shoes until the soles thinned out, and he never bought anything fancy for himself. For him, Emily's dreams mattered more than his comfort. In the same building, at the top floors, sat the world of glittering suits and high heels, ambitious young professionals who worked for one of the city's leading tech companies. They were often arrogant, joking about their expensive lunches and luxury cars. Among them was a group of interns who believed they were smarter and more important than anyone else around. They often looked down on Daniel. They whispered behind his back, laughed when he passed by, and sometimes even mocked him for smelling like cleaning detergent. One Friday afternoon, as the interns gathered in the cafeteria, one of them named Ryan smirked and said, "Hey, you know what would be hilarious? Setting up the janitor on a blind date. Imagine the look on the girl's face when she sees him walk in with his cheap clothes." The others burst into laughter. To them, it was just a harmless joke. They thought they were clever, but in reality, they were playing with someone's dignity. They roped in another intern, a young woman named Chloe, who was ambitious and eager to fit in. Chloe wasn't naturally cruel, but peer pressure made her agree. They told her that they had found her a blind date with a man working in the same building, someone who was humble, kind, and full of surprises. They never revealed who it was, hoping for maximum embarrassment. Saturday evening came, and Chloe dressed beautifully for the supposed blind date. She sat nervously in a cozy restaurant, waiting. Her heart raced as she imagined a charming young businessman walking through the door. But instead, it was Daniel. Wearing his only ironed shirt and an old tie Emily had given him as a Father's Day gift, Daniel stepped in, his eyes filled with both nervousness and hope. He had been told anonymously about the date and, deep down, he longed for companionship after years of loneliness. The moment Chloe saw him, her smile froze. She looked confused, then embarrassed. The interns, hiding at another table nearby, snickered behind their menus, recording the scene with their phones. Daniel noticed their laughter but tried to ignore it. He sat down politely and said, "Hello, it's nice to meet you. My name is Daniel." His voice was calm, sincere, and gentle. Chloe shifted uncomfortably. She had not expected this. Part of her wanted to run away, but something in Daniel's eyes stopped her. There was no arrogance there, only kindness. Still, the pressure of her peers made her feel awkward. The group whispered loudly, "Ask him about his job." "Oh, this is going to be good." When Chloe asked Daniel what he did, he smiled and said, "I work in the same building as you all. I make sure everything is clean and safe for everyone who comes to work." The interns exploded in laughter from their corner. Chloe's cheeks burned. She whispered, "You're the janitor." Daniel nodded without shame. At that moment, something shifted in Chloe. She realized she had been tricked into humiliating an innocent man. While the interns expected her to laugh along, she instead leaned closer to Daniel and said softly, "That's honest work. I didn't know they were setting you up like this." Daniel gave a small smile, sensing her sincerity. "It's all right, people see what they want to see," he replied. But the laughter from the other table grew louder, crueler. One of them called out, "Hey Chloe, ask him if he can afford dessert." Another shouted, "Better watch out, or he might pay with his mop." The restaurant fell silent as other diners turned to watch. Daniel's hands trembled slightly, but he kept his composure. Years of enduring mockery had taught him patience. Then suddenly, a voice from across the room spoke with quiet authority. "That's enough." The laughter stopped immediately. Everyone turned. Standing near the entrance was none other than Mr. Harris, the CEO of the company, the man who owned the building, the man everyone respected and feared. Mr. Harris walked slowly toward their table, his eyes piercing the group of interns. He had been dining privately in a corner and had witnessed the entire cruel prank. He stopped in front of Daniel and extended his hand. "Good evening, Daniel," he said warmly. I didn't expect to see you here tonight. The room was stunned. The CEO knew the janitor by name. Daniel stood and shook his hand humbly. Good evening, sir. I'm sorry if we caused a disturbance. Mr. Harris turned to the interns, his expression cold. A disturbance? What I saw was a group of young people mocking a man who has shown more integrity and loyalty to this company than most of you ever will. Do you know how long Daniel has worked for us? 25 years. When others left for better offers, he stayed. When we had a fire incident 3 years ago, he was the one who rushed back into the building to help evacuate people, risking his life. And yet, you choose to ridicule him. The interns sat frozen, their faces pale. No one dared to speak. The silence was heavy, only broken by the faint clink of silverware from distant tables. Mr. Harris then placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. This man is not just a janitor. He is the backbone of this building. Without people like him, none of us could do our jobs. He deserves respect, not laughter. Then he looked directly at Chloe. And you, did you know about this prank? Chloe shook her head quickly, her eyes filling with tears. No, sir. They tricked me into it. I didn't want to embarrass him. Mr. Harris studied her for a moment, then nodded. I believe you, but let this be a lesson for all of you. He then addressed the interns firmly. Your titles, your degrees, your salaries mean nothing if you cannot respect another human being. If I ever see behavior like this again, you won't have a future in my company. The weight of his words sank deep into the room. The interns looked down, ashamed. The phones they had been recording with were quickly hidden under the table, useless now. Turning back to Daniel, Mr. Harris smiled kindly. Daniel, I hope you enjoy your evening. Dinner is on me tonight. Order whatever you'd like. Daniel's eyes widened with gratitude. He simply nodded and said, Thank you, sir. With that, Mr. Harris left the restaurant, leaving behind an air of silence heavier than before. Nobody dared to laugh anymore. Chloe turned back to Daniel, her voice soft and trembling. I'm sorry, for everything. You didn't deserve this. Daniel gave her a gentle smile. It's all right. Sometimes life tests us in strange ways. What matters is what we learn from it. That night, Chloe stayed and shared a meal with Daniel. They spoke about his daughter, about his life, about the little things that made him happy. To her surprise, she found herself genuinely enjoying his company. He was not just a janitor. He was wise, humble, and carried stories far richer than any of the shallow conversations she had with people her age. Over the following weeks, the story of that night spread quietly through the company. The interns were never quite the same again, humbled, subdued, and aware that arrogance had no place in real success. And Daniel, he continued his work with the same quiet dignity, though now more people greeted him with respect. They began to see him not as invisible, but as a man worthy of admiration. And as for Chloe, she and Daniel became unlikely friends. She visited him sometimes, helped with small chores, and even met Emily, who adored her father's resilience. Chloe admitted later that the so-called joke had opened her eyes more than any internship experience could have. The cruel prank that began with laughter ended in silence, but also in respect, humility, and a powerful reminder: never judge someone by their job or appearance, because true worth lies in the heart, not in the label society gives. And friends, that is the story for today. If this touched your heart, don't forget to share it with someone who might need this reminder. Respect is free, kindness costs nothing, and sometimes the people we overlook carry the most powerful stories of all.